I've always tried to use social media to give people a snapshot into my life,
Mm.
because I'm going to have that person who likes cars, or that person who has young kids, or someone who plays basketball, or someone who played football, collegiately, or whatever, whatever part of their life. Someone who's been married twice, have gone through a divorce. So they resonate with something that I put out there, and that helps to make them feel like they're going to break through some kind of threshold of this fitness thing where they get stuck and then they can't break it. Maybe with him, I will be able to break it. So,
Yeah, yeah,
so I make this whole thing just a platform where people can share a bit of their story.
yeah,
So
yeah.
here's a question I was thinking about as we were getting kind of prepared for this. You go somewhere, you go to a party, right? You walk in
Mm.
the room, and the first question that people typically ask is, "What do you do?" Right?
Yeah.
So instead of answering the question, "What do you do?" what if someone just simply asks, "Who are you?"
Mm. Uh, it's funny
So
that you say that,
yeah,
and not to interrupt you, but I mean,
no,
it's
no,
funny
go ahead.
that you say that because I've been nervous about that question for a long time now, right? Because in 2005, I became a police officer, and it's
Hmm.
all I ever said to people. Like, you go to a party, like you said, you meet people. What do you do? I'm a police officer. It's such a big part of my life. But once I was going through my charge, and that was a long process,
Hmm.
I didn't know what I was anymore. And so when I do speak,
Hmm.
I do say that exact same thing. I did a keynote last month and I said, if I were to ask you, who are you? What would you say? And a lot of people got this look like,
Yes,
I don't know what to say to that. And I
yes,
think we're all in a journey of answering that question. But
yes.
did you come up with your own answer? Because I'm still working on mine.
I know. I'm just crafting it as we speak here. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I've answered it a few different ways, and every time I've answered it differently, and I start to assess what I use first. So, do I open with "I'm a father"? Do I open with "I'm a husband"? Do I open with "I'm a fitness professional"? Do I
Mm.
open with, you know what I mean? Like, there's certain things that I start to evaluate. Like, well, what is the most important thing to me? What do I want to put out there first? Um, and if I put that out first, is that the most important thing to me? Like, I start looking at, I've broken the question down before I've even answered it, right? I've asked myself seven more questions before answering the first one.
Yeah. Now, does that change depending on who you're talking to? Because you may be talking at a networking event and you may have been invited there thinking you might grow your business. So you might
Yes,
lead with personal trainer.
right.
But if you're going to another event where you're just, you know what, I'm just sitting back and I'm going to enjoy the evening, you may lead with your heart, which is like, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, you know.
Yes, yeah.
So how does that get crafted? Um, yeah.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And even in that setting, like even in that professional setting, do I say I'm a Pilates coach? Do I say I'm a personal trainer? Do I say I'm a movement specialist? I switched my business cards to say movement specialist,
Yeah. Yeah.
period,
And
right? So I mean, like, um, yeah, exactly. There's so many layers to who we are, and there's so many pieces to that it is going to be a very fluid answer. In a professional context, I would say I'm a movement specialist. I help people to be injury free, and to explore what Pilates is, and get men doing Pilates, and I'm on that on that Pilates for men tip right now. So I'm really pushing that, and for athletes, and as they're missing links. So in that in that context, that's how I answer that.
hmm,
Um, and actually, in the other side of that too, think about, like I mentioned, just being divorced. There's contexts where I go into where I still see myself as a divorced person, as opposed to someone who's remarried and have a blended family and have four kids, and all that stuff. Like, I don't, like yourself being married and have a new kid and family. Like, that's like one chapter of my life that I've gone through, and now I'm in another chapter, second marriage, and all these different things. So I almost still carry that in my head, like the divorce is the greater piece of the impact of who I am, and I've had to peel that piece of the identity back.
yeah. I think that it probably is because of the adversity that you may have gone through during that, right? So there's lessons that you learn from doing that. When I talk to people, I have the same thing. I have slashes in there
Yes.
too. I'm a former police officer slash, wellness coach slash
Yes.
um, motivational speaker slash speech coach. So there's so many things that are part of who I
Yes.
am,
Right.
but I always keep the story of of being a police officer because I was wrongfully convicted and I went to jail wrongfully. All these things that
Mm,
became who I am that
yes.
I've tried, Martin, to kind of push that aside and say, nope, forget about the past. This is who I am now. But
Mhm.
it always seems that someone will say, but I did see something on Google about you, or I read
Yes.
this. And I think that it's important for us to control that narrative.
Absolutely.
So if someone reads something online, I don't want that to be the only thing they ever hear about me. So I don't know if sometimes people get kind of sick of hearing, okay, Kwesi's talking about a story again, but it follows me whether I talk about it or not. So I may as well, like I said, control that narrative.
You controlling narrative is important. Bringing it into the here and now is important, right? Like people just it will whisper, and when you establish what that narrative is, that goes around. And I agree with you. It is definitely part of your present day story. It's not just a piece of the past.
Yeah.
When it came to the marriage side of things for me, I esteemed marriage so high.
Hmm.
It was like this pedestal. It was this place of achievement where I could say like, I'm part of this club because I'm wearing this ring. So when that ended the first time for me, there's such a huge, massive part of my identity that died with that even doing it again, there's like this asterisk beside it doing it again because that's the second time around. You know what I mean? So, but now controlling that narrative around it and not being stuck in that past, but having a story of to say, I found happiness, I found life after, I'm not stuck at that point, um, is something that brings life to other people, brings encouragement to other people. So that's why I bring it up, not in a woe is me kind of state, but I was to say like look at me as someone who was in some really dark spots and came out of that, landed on my feet. And landing on my feet doesn't mean being remarried again. It means being in a place of joy again, or being in a place of wholeness again, being a place of happiness in myself again. So yeah, so that's it. I see that with your story too, right? Where you're in such a good spot now that and it's just amazing to see you come through that and to show that resilience
Yeah.
with
And I
that.
think that a lot of people have resilience. They just don't think of the stories, right? They don't
Mm,
think of what they went through. And that's good that you're able to frame the fact that you were divorced and take those lessons out of it. And that will help other people who are going through divorce or have issues in their marriage. You can help them through that. And
yes.
I think that's what all people want to know. They want to know, okay, well, not that you went through something, but
Yes.
how are you thriving because of that? And
Yes.
I read a story that said that, or I read a stat that said that just hearing people's stories of resilience
Hmm.
makes you more resilient at a
Really.
subconscious level. Yeah.
Yes.
So someone hearing the fact that you attached yourself to you held marriage in high esteem and it didn't work for you, but now you're back again and you've gave it another chance. And there may have been some trepidation there about trying again. And I'm actually married for the second time too. So
I didn't know
I
that.
I get that,
There you
and that's
go.
not something I talk about. But
Right.
yeah, I got married once, and I respect you because you've always held it in high esteem. I'll be honest, I did not when I
Mm,
first got married. I didn't really treat it with the respect that it deserves.
yes.
And so it was a very short marriage. And I take out of that the fact that I really now hold it in the same high esteem now.
Hmm.
So my wife now, I'm just, okay. I told her once, I said, you may experience pain in your life, but I will do my best never to be the cause of it. So,
Yeah, story share platform that we did before was amazing because like I think when I was sharing there, I said not to trivialize what we just talked about, but like it's a checkpoint.
yeah,
It
yeah,
really is quite simply a checkpoint, and everyone has some checkpoint, whether it's a health scare or a loss of a loved one or whatever. So what do we do at that checkpoint, and what do we do with that checkpoint?
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
It's your life. I don't know. I don't want to trivialize it either, but it's almost like it's boring if you don't have another story, right? Tom Brady just left New England and went to Tampa Bay, right? He's
Yes.
trying to write a new story there. He's taken what was
Yes.
good about New England, but he's
Hmm.
not, but he's saying, okay, now what else can I do?
Hey, Chris, can you talk about your book? and how that's going.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's kind of been a journey for me because in 2015, I actually started writing the book, even though it was a few years later before I released it. But I
Okay.
wanted to write about my side of the story. I mean, it's a nationally
Mhm.
publicized case. Uh, Kurt Petrovich, a CBC reporter, wrote about the factual side of it. Like this is
Okay.
exactly what happened. But
Yes.
I wanted to write down and get on paper my how you rise above it, and that's why I called the
Yes.
book Rise. I
Yeah.
wanted to say, okay, if you're going through adversity, this is how you rise above it, and I just
Mm.
use what I've gone through to help other people. And it's been good because it gives people a chance. When I speak, I may speak for a short period of time or meet people. They get a chance to get the whole story from my perspective by
Yes.
reading the book. So it's been really good. It's been really good, an add-on to help expand what I talk about when I speak.
Yes.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. I would recommend
And
everybody write a book, by the way.
yeah, oh, absolutely. It's I contributed to Paul Moret's book back
Yeah,
in the day,
I
and
remember
yeah,
that.
and
Yes.
that's but man, like that was a chapter. Like I wrote a chapter in a book, and that was painful. Like that was like I remember like getting home from and then the editor calling us and saying, please review this because it needs to be out tomorrow. And I realized I didn't open the email till like 11:30 and it's due by midnight, and just like I felt like I was in school pulling all-nighters, and dude. I'm like, man, I'd like to write another book, but I remember that pain.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
it's kind
think
of
I'm
like the
still,
marriage thing, right? You
yeah,
remember, don't
exactly.
remember just the pain of what happened. Remember the good things, and you know.
Right.
But
Yes,
there's probably some good things that you can pull out as well too.
absolutely.
But
Well,
yeah,
there's
yeah,
almost like a second chapter to that, right? Because I mean, I
yeah,
think at the time of writing that, I was talking about just simply overcoming a divorce and I wasn't married, and there's this whole piece of life, and I remember talking about game face on, like just going into my workplace and finding life and solace in training my clients, and whether it's Pilates or PT, and just being with those people and just getting energy from them
yes,
in a way that was saving me. And then I drive home and I sit in my driveway for like half an hour just trying to get the courage to like go into the house to fight again
yeah.
or to be in like dead silence again, sort of thing, right? So that's the story that came out in my first book, so to speak. So yeah, I do need to have a another chapter that would be that encouragement of rising above. you know
Yeah. And that's funny that I mean you say that, and I may hit you up for this at some point too. I'm thinking of writing a compilation book
okay.
and sharing other people's stories too, for people like yourself that may not want to say I don't want to write a whole book, but I want to share one key lesson with people.
Yes.
There's a lot of people out there like that, and whether it's a platform that people can speak on, or getting a chance to put it in print, to say that it's
Yes.
out there, when I give people that chance. Writing a book it's not about thinking to write a book. And that's what I tell people that are thinking
Hmm.
about becoming authors. Every time I thought to myself, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to sell it, I'd
Hmm.
start, Martin, and I'd quit
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's too daunting to think about. But if I
Right.
just said, I'm going to write out my story for myself, and if I have kids one day, for my future kids, right? I didn't have
Hmm.
Phoenix
Hmm.
yet. And that took all the pressure off of me so that it
Yes.
didn't have to become something I published one day. It just
Yes.
became something I started writing, and I wrote like
Right.
a few lines a day, and
Mhm.
it blew up from there.
Yeah, and I think that's, that you just said that, and that did resonate with me, the sense of writing the story for my sons, right? For my kids, so they can see, because they're gonna hear our stories through us, and they'll hear stories from my parents and stuff, but they're not gonna hear my story from my perspective.
Exactly,
Like in
exactly.
some of those areas that they may not be even ready to hear yet.
About just how to be men, how to be
Yeah.
men, how to treat women, and I think I'm gonna do something like that
Hmm. Hmm.
eventually, simply because something you may not know about me is that I grew up in a single parent home. My dad left when I was 5,
Mm.
and he had 5 different children from 5 different women.
Ah,
So,
yes.
and I'm going to be totally honest here. I kind of was a little bit of a player when I was younger, and I wouldn't say player as in I had all the moves, but at the same time, I
Hmm.
didn't take relationships as seriously as I should have, like into my 20s, Martin. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and probably into my 30s a little bit too. So it's just something I had to look back on and say, you know what, if I'm going to be raising a son, yeah, I know you're gonna be in school and you're gonna be talking to women and stuff like that. And the one thing I would say to him is, I'm not going to tell you, okay, you got to meet one girl in high school and then marry her. It's not realistic. But I will say, never lie, be honest.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Even if you're going to have five girls and you're going to be a player in college, tell them all exactly what you're doing. As
Yes.
hard as that is, and
Mhm.
then do your thing, but be honest about it. So
Yes. Yeah.
I
No,
guess that's one thing I
it's
would say.
I agree. I agree. And growing up with a dad in the house, I saw the different principles that he was trying to instill in me. And the saying that I use with parents is, there's a lot more things that are caught than are taught.
Mm.
So
Okay.
he
Yeah.
may have told me to do certain things, like don't lie to your mother or something like that, but I also saw his discipline. Like, he would work X amount of jobs, and the one time that he was uh, working like a midnight shift and then a double shift, and then my brother and I would be slipping away and just messing up and causing problems as teenagers, he quit his job.
Mm.
He's like, you guys are sliding away from me. And from that point, I saw that he was like, family was that important that he'll
He
find
quit
money
his
somewhere
job.
else.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, he
That's
quit that
huge,
evening job.
man.
Yeah, so he had his day job still, but that evening job he thought I could make some extra money with. He's like, no, it's not worth it if you guys are going to be running around until 5 minutes before I get home at midnight on a weeknight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So like those things, those principles of discipline and diligence and importance of family and those kind of things. I was like, okay, there's he who makes himself rich yet he is poor, and there's he who makes himself poor yet he is rich.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
remember hearing that saying. I was like, that's exactly what he's doing. He's going to be rich in family instead of rich in money and poor in family, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
when I started to see those things happening, I realized, okay, I got to be a grinder, but I got to keep this family together. I got to be a person of integrity, and just I always got to be ready, right? Like whatever it is, like you
You
joke
have.
about being ready for a shopping channel, but like there's a sense of me always being prepared, whether it's like
Yeah,
for whatever it is. So
but
yes,
he calls it the triple double. He's full of sports metaphors, which is probably
yes,
why I really resonate with him. And basketball, the triple double is what points, assists, and rebounds.
mhm,
But he says a lot of people, they have really good businesses, but their marriage sucks, or they
right,
have good
yeah,
marriages, but they don't have any grind, or
mhm,
their kids are slipping away. So he's talking about having all these silos, if you will,
yes,
in place and making them all work. And
mhm,
yeah, I guess I kind of struggle with that sometimes because I want to make sure that I'm spending enough time with my wife. And obviously, my son's only almost 10 months now, but
mhm,
making sure that as he gets older, I'm not sacrificing our time together just to make money or just to be successful. Even though I have
right.
ambitions in certain areas, I
Mhm.
got to keep that balance, right?
Right, exactly. Uni just put a comment here. It's hard when you don't have that father figure in life, but teachers, people, and life teaches you and form you to be the person you should be. Yeah, that's absolutely true, and that's you have to be looking out for those messages and recognize that there are people out there who want to fill those gaps.
Yeah.
Because it's a vacuum, right? It will be filled by something.
Yeah, exactly, exactly, and
It will
yeah,
be filled.
you're going to be influenced, especially now in this day of
Hmm.
social media. And to Yanni's point there, I spoke at an event a couple months ago, and I have all these stories, and I realized near the end of my keynote that I had stories, and I was mentioning an author here, an author there, an author there, and then at the end, I just kind of jokingly said I should actually have a book list to give
Yeah.
out to you
Yes.
before you leave today, because a lot of times, yeah, I didn't have that father in my life the whole time. Like I saw my dad sporadically, but our
Hmm.
figures don't have to be necessarily people we've met all the time.
Right.
They can come from pages. So they can
Yes.
come from people we read about. They can come from things that we watch. Now we're watching YouTube. We can
Hmm.
find our mentors amongst people we haven't necessarily met. Yes, it's important to have these close groups of friends, that people that will call you to be better people,
Yes.
but you can get it from places too, places that are not your typical places. Like you can get it from books and that type of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So how long have you been a dad for now?
Well, 9 months, 9.5 months. Next
Yes.
Thursday is Phoenix's
Yeah.
10 months.
Yeah. So
And
seasoned
yeah, it's,
veteran.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. But it's, I mean, the one, I guess, blessing of the time we're in is that, like I said, I get to spend so much more time with them because
Yes.
the industry, the fitness industry. You have sometimes early morning clients, you're jumping back and
Hmm.
forth, and then you have after work clients, right? So,
Yes.
and it could be all over the place, and so
Yeah.
it's been really a blessing just to see him do simple things, right? I never thought as I'd be so amazed with someone doing
Yes.
something simple that they weren't able to do a couple days ago. And
Right.
now I get it. Now I get why everybody posts about their kids all the time because
It's not annoying anymore.
yeah, yeah, no, it's I understand it. It's that you just love this thing. It's just amazing. Yeah, yeah.
On my desk at my house, I had this picture of my son when he was like, we put him in the grass the first time. I can't remember what age he is. And he has a blade of grass in his hand and he's just looking at it. And it's just like that novelty of like, you see the world through their eyes. Like, dude, he'd never seen grass before. Like,
Yeah,
like, that
yeah,
sort of thing, right?
exactly.
So, yeah, there's amazing novelty to that. And like you're saying, like, it makes us want to be that much more intentional with our lives, what we teach and how we live it, right? So they can catch those things and they can, we can teach them those things as well.
Yeah, I think
You
more
know,
about legacy. You know what I mean?
yes,
Just
yes.
what am I going to leave for him? What am I going to teach him? How do I turn my long roads into his shortcuts? All these things I think about. Yeah.
Good
Sorry, I cut
word.
you off.
No, no, no. I need to like write that down real quick. Turn those long roads into shortcuts. That's that's it. No, I was gonna say actually that we started off with who are you, and I think we're just going down each slash as we're
Yeah.
talking through. We hit the police officer, we hit the father, we hit the speaker and the story share thing. What are you doing with fitness right now?
Yeah. Fitness is it's kind of one of those things that I don't really, it's always been in my life and it's always been something important to me. And it's funny that you say that because all my speaking was, I treated totally separate from fitness. And where I'd been a year ago is I started training and I train at a place where it's mostly active aging people. So it's just,
Okay.
simple like personal training, learning more about movement, like what we talked about at CanFit when I did your class at the TRX with the TRX there.
Yes.
So I'm still doing that, but I just thought of that as a temporary uh, income earner until I
Yes.
get speaking and coaching going. But I'm
Hmm.
thinking about it differently now because
Hmm.
I can remember when I was charged with perjury, and for people who know my story, when I was charged and I had to look at something else to do with my life, fitness
Yes.
had always been there for me. I got my
Yes.
certification in 2001 and it just kind of sat there. And it's what got me out of my depression. It's getting out there and just
Mm.
helping one person to
Yes.
get to a level of better health. It actually got me out of a deep depression. And every time I think of fitness, I think of, like you said, these principles, how to be a better person. And so I'm going
Yes.
to incorporate it into my speaking now. I guess the short story is, where's fitness now? I want to incorporate it in my speaking. Part of the speaking I do is with youth, and I want to work that into my keynote.
Talk a little bit more about helping to dig us out of depression, if you can.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess if people are depressed, and I sometimes talk about the fact that, I mean, part of the time when I was in jail was in solitary, so I had my own isolation
Mm.
going on
Yeah.
there. And one of the things that I can say, the best thing that helped me get out of there, out of that depression, was number one, it sounds hokey, but just silence or meditation, just finding time in the day to just not worry about tomorrow and just
Yes.
be here now, because we have so much uncertainty
Yes.
now. I don't know when they're going to lift this lockdown, and the things that you can control, I just work on those. So if I'm
Yes.
going to talk to someone who wants to come out of depression, just focus on what you can control. So for me today,
Mhm.
what I can control, spending time with my family. Today is actually my wedding anniversary.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Happy
yeah.
anniversary.
Thank you, thank
Please
you.
say hi to Cindy for me.
Uh, I
Yeah.
will,
Yeah.
and spending time with my family today. And yeah, that's what I would say. When it comes to depression, find quiet moments in the day and also
Hmm.
focus on what you can control, because there's going to be a lot of
Yes.
things you can't control. And my psychologist told me that when I was facing the charge, when I wasn't sure if I was going to jail or not. Thank you. Happy anniversary. Thank you. She told me, you know what? You cannot control whether you're going to be convicted of this crime. You cannot control whether you're going to go to jail. But what you can control is what you're going to do if those situations happen.
And the power of helping, when you said about even just helping the one person, it's amazing how from that place of being broken, that still being able to reach out and help someone else empowers you, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they say giving is just as good for the giver as it is for the receiver. And it's so
absolutely.
true. And you know that, right? When you give Christmas gifts at Christmas, how do you feel? You feel amazing. Right.
Yes.
When I was in jail, an English teacher who left the public system came into the prison to teach English. And
Okay.
he asked me, "Hey, Kwesi, you have a high school diploma." I was one of the few that did.
Mm.
Help me tutor these guys to get their high school diplomas. And so I would help these
Wow.
guys, and as I was helping them, and as they started, they're playing tough at first, right? Man,
Yes.
I don't want to learn. And then by the end of it, they're like, can my family come see me get my high school
Mm.
diploma? We had little ceremonies for them.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you that's the little thing that kind of got me not thinking about my own situation anymore. Like, what am I going to do after this? What does my life look like? And that's what giving does.
Yes.
It helps you forget how depressed you are as well.
The concept of being a wounded healer.
Okay, I love that term, wounded
Yeah,
healer.
and a wounded healer, because what it does is it gives us permission to accept the fact that we don't have to wait until we're absolutely perfect before we can reach out and help somebody else.
Mm, mm. And it gives you permission to talk about it
And
too.
it gives you permission to talk about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because people don't want to hear people who've lived all rosy lives, right?
Hmm.
Mike Tyson once said everybody has a plan till they get punched in the face. So if you
Yes.
get punched in the face and you talk to other people, you can talk to them with credibility, right? Right?
Absolutely.
Right. So
Yeah.
I love that wounded healer. I'm
Yeah.
gonna
A
remember that
wounded
term.
hero. Yeah. Because I mean, like we all have a limp from
Yeah.
something, right? We've all
Mm.
been touched. We all had some kind of scar. We all have some battle wounds. And because we have those wounds, sometimes I feel like I need to just wait till I get my life right before I speak to somebody else. When I could be literally one step ahead of you in the same process and have something to give to you that might be the thing that helps you. We're doing for time. Man, I find these hours go so fast. I'm
Yeah.
like,
It flew by. At first, I was kind of nervous because it's normally when I do an interview, it's okay. Here's a list of questions we're gonna ask. And we're gonna go through it. You just
nah.
called me and said, okay, let's just hit live and go,
Yep.
and it's what happened.
My wife was the one that came up with the idea core for the name Core Conversations because
Okay.
at our core, this is who we really are, and I love having these chats with people that are not like, what do you think about the Raptors, or like what's the weather
Yeah.
like
I hate, I'm not a small talk person. So it's,
no.
for me, I have trouble with it sometimes. So I love this concept that you came up with, and I appreciate you having me on here. So it's good.
Absolutely. The
Yeah.
one thing I did want to circle back to was actually public speaking and
Hmm.
confidence.
Mm.
And I know that people use this almost as a strategy for helping them. Like if someone has self-confidence issues, you might say, "Hey, take a public speaking course,"
Mm.
sort of thing. So what's your thoughts on diving into the public speaking world?
Uh, yeah, for me, it was, I guess it started because of a lack of confidence. To go back and circle back to that question, who are you and who are you? When I was first asked that question for years, it was always the first thing I said is, what do I do? So when I was a police officer, and
Mhm.
I'm not going to put down any other jobs, but I'm going to say being a police officer for Canada's National Police Force, I
Yes.
love telling people that was who I
Yeah.
was, because it
Right.
was, the red serge and the Stetson hat, and I love that. So when I lost that, or when I was threatening, there was a threat that I was going to lose that, I tried all different things. I did like fitness modeling, entered these competitions, and trying to
Mhm.
see, okay, how can I um, make my body the best it can be, and I did that for a while. And in
Mhm.
2000 and when was it? 2013. I was listening to Les Brown, my favorite motivational
Yes.
speaker,
Yes.
and he mentioned Toastmasters. And I just wanted something to improve my confidence. I wanted something to make me not hate myself as much anymore because I just hated the
Yeah.
fact that I felt like I had nothing. And
Right.
I walked into my first meeting, and 6 years later, 7 years later, I'm still a Toastmaster today. And it's not the only thing I've done in speaking, of course, but it's helped me because what speaking does is it allows you to share who you are with other people, and it
Yes.
allows you to conquer a fear. So if you have fears in your life and you can tick them off,
Hmm.
then
Yes.
you'll improve your confidence. So,
Right.
that was one of the fears. Obviously, it's one of the top fears for most people. I think it's number two or
Hmm.
number three worldwide. So I checked it off. I checked it off by speaking more. So I would definitely say that that is huge for me. And so much so that I became a speech coach. So just because I want to be
Yes.
able to help
Yeah.
other people do that. I've won an awards for the coaching aspect of it or the evaluation aspect of it.
Yes.
So that actually gave me a little bit of confidence to be able to say, okay, you know what, I am good at coaching as well.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it just the competition side, not so much yet. But who knows?
Mhm.
We'll see. We'll see.
But you know what? Like from my perspective, I've done like speaker slam and stuff, and I went up there to share my story, and I didn't win. I think I won I won People's Choice Award or something.
Yes, I think I saw
Um,
that. Yeah.
and it wasn't about winning the speech, but I think like you said, like this being able to coach, to be able to duplicate yourself, and to give people the opportunity to get that that confidence for themselves. That is a trophy, man. Like that is a true win, right? Like that's your W right
It is.
there.
Well, I love that idea. I said to someone, I think it was when I first became a speech coach, is in Toastmasters, the highest award you can win is the World Championship of Public Speaking. And I
Yes.
said that I'd love to win that one day, but I would equally love to coach someone to win that. And
No doubt.
there's a former
Yeah.
world champion, Ed Tate, who's now
Okay.
coached. I think he's coached two people to win the world championship. And I'm sure
Yes.
that if you asked him, he would say that's just as much a feather in his cap
Yes.
as when he won himself. And I appreciate Flea said
Absolutely.
Flea said I'm a good speech coach. My friend here, Wellness by Flea.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean he's someone who's always stepped up and spoke. So anyone who's learned anything from me as a speech coach does the work themselves.
It
So
resonates with me, like being able to say that you're the one who brought that person to that championship, to that, that is in my life as a coach, that is my, that's my crowning, thing, right? To be able to say like, okay, this person has this belt, his championship, this ring, whatever it is, and points back down to me to say I helped them along that journey. While I'm looking at
yeah,
them as they're
yeah,
the one who did the journey on their own, and I just came alongside them in their journey. Um, yeah, that's the piece. That's the crowning glory for me there.
yeah, it is. I
It's,
mean, we know the name Phil Jackson for a reason, right? So
yep.
yeah, right. So
Yes.
we know the coaches out there that have done good work, right? We know obviously Michael Jordan's a big player, but Phil Jackson was behind that
Hmm.
too. So
Right.
yeah, and that's something I love to do, and I'm going on live on my with my subscribers at 3 o'clock
Okay.
to talk
Okay.
about coaching and keynoting as well too. So
Yeah.
that'll be fun.
Yeah.
I'm typing it in as we go here. Uh, yeah, so people can find me on Speech Coach Online on Instagram or 52publicspeakingtips.com for
Okay.
weekly
Cool.
speaking tips there. So
Yeah. Dude, I honestly I use those tips like when I was preparing for my stuff. Like,
oh, good, good,
oh
good.
man, yeah, just like paint a picture with your words and take it. Like I eat that stuff up, man. Like you're legit. Like I really
Okay.
appreciate just taking those tips from you, man.
Thank you, thank you. Well, I learned a lot from you movement wise, man, and it's only because I haven't made it out to Mississauga yet, but I'm dying to get into your Pilates class at some point, and you
Yes.
will see me there because I do believe that real men do Pilates and
Yeah.
yoga.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, I
Awesome,
appreciate it.
man.
I appreciate it.
Cool. Hey, man, Quace, thank you so much for your time today. I'll make some edits on this and just put the highlights back up, and feel free to use it on your site to just give people a snapshot into your life and what you're doing, buying your books, finding you for speaking, and yeah, keep doing it, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you, and thank you for having me on here, and thanks for everybody in those comments from everybody.
Yes,
It's been fun. Cool.
awesome. Okay,
Okay.
sign off here. Thanks so much, man.
Okay.
Thanks.